Welcome to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN. Now, here's your hosts, Gary Kelley and Brad Avergon.
Good morning, or good afternoon now. We used to be on mornings. Now we're on in the afternoon. This is All Things Real Estate with Brad Avergon. Brad, who are you with?
I am a senior loan officer with Envision Bank and Mortgage. And Gary, how about yourself? Who are you with?
I'm Gary Kelley, and I'm a house slinger from Remax Executive Realty, otherwise known as a realtor. So Brad, the last time we got together was right around Thanksgiving. We're recording this on the 9th. It's going to play on the 16th, which is just getting to be close to Christmas. So this is kind of our final show of the year. We wanted to take a look and say, what is it going to look like in 2022?
I'm going to take out my crystal ball and I'm going to rub it, and I'm going to be my clairvoyant self. I think 2022 is going to. I'm going to refer to as a year we return to normalcy. I don't know if that's wishful thinking, Gary, or as I said, I'm a clairvoyant. But based on everything that I'm seeing, I think we're going to see more of a normal market. I think we're going to see, houses coming on the market and selling at a reasonable price. I still think it's going to be a seller's market, but not the craziness that we saw in 2021. I think with regard to interest rates, I think we're going to see, things, hover between 3 and 3.5. Depending on the inflation factors that come in, we may see them scoot over that, but I don't think we're going to break 4%. So I think we're going to be in a good, hopefully healthy, sales market, buy and sell market. What do you think, Gary? Take out your crystal ball.
I tend to look at things from the perspective of what's the data going to tell me, and if I look at the data, which I will do here when I pull it up correctly.
Why would anyone want to look at data, Gary? Why would anyone want to refer to the science of it when you could just throw a dart at the wall?
Well, it's always interesting to show data when you're doing a radio show. But if you are following on Facebook, YouTube, or any of the other platforms that this is shared on, you'll see a chart that has the last 4 years of data. And I take no credit for this chart. I stole this approach from Anthony Lamacchia, who I think does an excellent job at going through and looking at market trends and market data and what's going on in MLS, and then talking intelligently about it. And you see that the cycle of real estate, the top two lines are basically the same. You get an ever increasing bump, and you see the spring market. And then you kind of tail off during the summertime. There's a big bump right after Labor Day, and then it tails off to this time of year. I've read something recently that says we don't do that anymore. People are staying home. People are working it from home, and they're able to look at a house anytime. And the truth is, if you have kids in school, you still want to most likely transfer in touch with the school year, etc. So I think that I don't believe that people will move anytime. Some will, obviously, but not all. But you can see the impact of COVID, where we've kind of stopped having the peaks, and we are still running below last year's level, which was prior than the other levels. So, if you're talking something where you've got 5,000-6,000 houses on the market, when in a typical year you'd have over 10,000. That's where people are saying there's no inventory, but we are still selling houses. People are still, I use the analogy, people are still getting married. People are still dying. People still are graduating college and want to buy a home. All of that stuff is still happening. So the fundamental things that drive the market are still there. And I think it's very important to people that they're in a position where they're able to, continue to enjoy living in a home that is their own, and not living in an apartment and not living in mom and dad's basement.
Agreed. one of the interesting things that it's a question that's put to me rather often, which is, do you think that we're going to see a decrease in pricing? Do you think that we're going to see the bubble burst, the drop in the housing market? And I've been doing this for over 34 years, and I personally don't see it. And what I do see is, I think and there's a lot of confusion that comes through this, Gary, because they'll say, well, the growth rate has dropped, and that's the big headline, right? The growth rate has dropped. It's not doing 20% anymore. And so what happens is that scares people. They hear drop, and they think that's a price drop. And there's a big differentiation between that, which is basically saying, look, you're not going to necessarily put your house on, buy your house today and list it in a month or two and be able to make $100,000 on top of it. I don't see us in that kind of a market. And feel free to jump in at any point, but I think we're in the kind of a market where we're going to see normal appreciation, which is, anywhere from 3 to 5%, which is a normal market. That's the kind of market we want to be in, where we don't have to worry about inflation running off the rails and things like that. Would you agree with that, Gary?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think that the people that have been holding off selling their homes because they were either expecting a continued acceleration in pricing to the stratosphere, I'm not seeing the kind of drive to the high levels continuing, the crazy offers, et cetera. There's still some of it out there, but that is tempered a bit. I was on the phone with a client yesterday who has $1 million plus house, and he wants to sell it. Frankly, he wants to sell it not so much to capture the high potential sales price, but he wants to sell it before the interest rates provide a sticker shock of a different kind. Where do you see interest rates going, Brad?
So I do see them increasing, Gary. So the Fed made it very clear. They try to telegraph things in advance to us in the industry, but also to kind of tell the public where they think things are going. And so during COVID, the Fed supported the economic downturn by purchasing mortgage-backed securities at an unbelievable rate. So basically, by becoming a buyer of mortgage-backed securities, they held interest rates down. They created a lot of demand for that and held interest rates down. They have made it clear that as of November, which passed, that was the first month they did it, they started cutting back on buying mortgage-backed securities. And they expect to, based on the current plan, to continue to do that through June while watching what's happening with the inflation market. The reason they're doing that is twofold. One is they see the economy as actually being in a rather healthy position considering what we just went through. And they're concerned about inflation. So the best way for them to taper that and to kind of bring inflation back into the numbers that they want is to let rates rise a little bit. So by not buying mortgage-backed securities, interest rates will naturally rise a little bit. We've already seen that. Interest rates on a 30-year fixed are no longer in the 2s. They're in the low 3s right now. That being said, that's not terrible. We expect them to go in the next 6 months, maybe up to about 3.5%, not sure, depending on where things go. We don't know, depending on how this inflation issue keeps going, we don't know if they're going to get up between 3.5%, 4%, and we're kind of waiting to see where that goes. And that's based on Fannie Mae's predictions, Freddie Mac's predictions, all the cross correlators. It's not just one sampling.
So Brad, at what point do you think there will be a screeching of brakes with interest rates? I'm not thinking, I think that there will be some hesitation and I think there'll be some slow up, but I'm not thinking that if there's a rate of 3% and we go to 3.25%, that's like going to stop everything. No.
I don't think it is going to stop everything. And I think there's, people buy homes because they need somewhere to live. A 0.25%, increase in an interest rate is not going to translate to that large an amount of money that it's going to stop someone from buying a home. That's number one. Number two, the other thing they have to realize is just like interest rates are going up, rents are going to be going up. So if you choose to stay in a home and continue paying rent, you can expect that your rent is going to increase. If you choose to buy a home, you can expect that your interest rate may knock up a little bit of a notch, but it's still going to be affordable. And that's where, I come into the picture. I'm not going to put people in homes that they can't afford. So as I continue to do pre-approvals for folks, as rates tick up a little bit, they, maybe that may translate to anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 in elasticity in purchase price. But I don't think it's going to be the difference between buying a home and not buying a home.
Brad, what I'm hearing a lot these days, and we're going to have to stop and take a break here, is my landlord is selling my house. I need to find another place to live. And they've been in the house, in their apartment for decades, and they pay $800 a month for their 2-bedroom apartment. I got to tell you something. You're probably not going to find a similar 2-bed apartment for $800, and it scares people.
It does. It does. I'm seeing more and more. We can talk about it the second half, but I'll fill you in on what I'm seeing more.
Brad, how does someone reach you real quickly?
Best way to reach me is by my cell phone, which is 978-375-5531, or you can reach me at Avergon, that's Bavergon at envisionbank.com. Gary, how do they reach you?
My cell is 508-733-6005, and I can be reached at Gary at movewithgary.com. See you on the flip side, Brad.
Got it.
You've been listening to All Things Real Estate on Full Service Radio, 830 WCRN.